Hey guys, in this video we will understand the concept of domain name and hosting. Now suppose you are planning to start a shoe store or clothing store. So what are the requirements in the physical world? You need stock, you need to have a store. It can be your own store or you can purchase it on rent. And last, you need customers who come to your store, do shopping, and you make money out of it. So similarly, in the digital world, your website files, images and videos becomes your stock. Your store name becomes your brand name or the domain name, for example Myntra.com or Amazon.com. And the store space which you purchase on rent, or it can be your own space, is known as hosting server. And the customer that comes to your online website is also known as traffic, audience, or visitor. I hope the concept of domain name, hosting, and website visitor is clear. Now, in order for the world to access your website, we need to purchase a domain, we need to purchase a hosting, and then we need to point our domain name and the website files to the hosting. So once our domain name and website files are pointing to the hosting, the entire world can access it using internet. So in order to get started, you first of all need to purchase a domain name. I recommend namecheap.com, but you can buy it from any other service provider like GoDaddy, InMotion. There are a lot of brands out there. So for example, I can go ahead and buy pestcontrol/abc.com. The search engine will quickly see if the domain is available or not. I will simply add to cart, make the payment, and that's it. The second step is to have or to purchase a hosting. Now again, we can purchase hosting from a lot of other service providers like InMotion, GoDaddy, Namecheap. For the sake of this video, I'll be purchasing hosting from Namecheap. Now you can see there are different type of hostings available right now, but for getting started, if your website is new and you're not getting any visitors, shared hosting is the best plan, and once we start getting traffic, we can upgrade it accordingly. Now the process is very simple. We go to shared hosting, we can purchase this stellar business plan which allows us to host unlimited websites. We can simply add an existing domain or buy a new domain and make this purchase. I'm not going into the checkout process since it's fairly easy. Now once you purchase the hosting, you will soon get an email with all the credentials. The email is somewhat like this. Now if I scroll down, you can see this is my main domain which I purchased along with the hosting plan. This is the IP address of my hosting. This is the cPanel details. Now this is where we will be adding and configuring our domain. And this is the name servers. Now our domain name should point to these name servers so that our website is hosted on our Namecheap server. So let's go to these details. So you can see that I added my username, I added my password, and now I will click on login. So this is the domain name which we will be hosting on Namecheap server. I'll click on copy. I'll go to cPanel, add on domains. Now if you see that this domain is added on my Namecheap server, now what I need to do is click on manage domains and update the name servers. Now, what this name server does, it tells the system that this domain name pestcontrol 247 will point to the Namecheap hosting. Now, since my domain name and hosting is from the same company, the domain name settings are automatic here. But you can also add a custom DNS. For example, if you purchase your hosting from GoDaddy, your Namecheap, your name servers can be cns1.godaddy.com, cns2.godaddy.com. Whatever your name servers are, you get those over email, just like this. So you don't have to worry. So once your domain points to the hosting name server, your website is successfully hosted on Namecheap or whatever hosting that you are using. Now we have understand the concept of domain name and hosting. Now next we will try to understand the process of Cloudflare. Now Cloudflare is a content delivery network system which analyzes your traffic and pass on the safe traffic and blocks the malicious traffic like bots, crawlers, or someone or hackers or attackers trying to get sensitive data out of your website. So basically it acts as a security check before going inside your store or your website. Earlier our domain name and website files was pointing towards our hosting. Now in Cloudflare the domain name and website files points to the Cloudflare, that is the security check, and from Cloudflare it points to the hosting. So basically we are adding one more layer and the flow afterwards is same. So now let's see how to add our website to Cloudflare. So I'll copy this domain. I'll go to cloudflare.com. Let me log in. Now I'll go to add a website. I'll paste the domain name. It should be without www and https, just the domain name and whatever is the extension. Now you can see there are a lot of plans with Cloudflare which have its own advantage compared to the type of website you are running. Now since we are getting started, we will be using free version. Click on continue. Now you can see we don't need to dive into all these data. Now click on continue. Now in this case our domain name should point to Cloudflare, and how that is done, it is done using name servers. Now go back to my domain name, custom DNS. So now our domain name is pointing to Cloudflare, and now from Cloudflare we need to point to the hosting. That is fairly simple. I'll go to my cPanel. I'll copy the IP address. Now I'll go to back to Cloudflare. So we'll go to DNS, and here we will add the IP address of the hosting. So now what is happening? In the domain name, our domain name is pointing to Cloudflare, which is done using name servers. You can see this is domain name and it's pointing to Cloudflare. And within Cloudflare, we are pointing the domain to the hosting. So basically we are achieving this flow. And that's it. Now suppose you are creating mail records for this domain. For example, support@pestcontrol247.com. We need to point mail records to. That's pretty simple. We will create a record again in the IP address. So this way all the emails we create for this particular domain will also point to the Namecheap hosting. Now we also need to update the MX records. And what we need to do is we need to select any MX record, mail.domain name, and priority will be 0. That's the highest priority. And that's it. Now our website is successfully hosted on Namecheap and configured using Cloudflare.